What's going on, y'all? Brandon Brownson here. So, today I'm doing a movie review. As you can probably tell by the title up there, or down there, wherever the hell it is anymore. I'm going to be talking about the new Godzilla movie that just came out, which I just saw a couple hours ago. Warning, this is probably going to contain spoilers. So, if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want anything spoiled, maybe not the review for you. Right off the bat, I want to say that overall, I was a fan of this movie. I had my complaints, but overall, it was a pretty good movie. One of the best American remakes of a Japanese film I've seen in a long time, and leaps and bounds better than the 1998 Godzilla movie that America made. Or 97, 98, I think it was 98. First things first, let's discuss the reason that everyone went to go see the movie, Godzilla. I thought that they did a very faithful adaptation of Godzilla. They didn't do the 1998 Velociraptor-looking Godzilla. No, this was actually Godzilla, which right away, phenomenal. They didn't pussify him or anything like that. He was still just as tough as we remember Godzilla being. He had the atomic breath, which blew my fucking mind. I was so happy when I saw that. So he was very faithful to what Godzilla is. One issue I had was that you didn't get a whole lot of Godzilla. There were a few brief flashes where you really got to see him, and toward, like, the last 20 minutes of the movie, you got a bunch of Godzilla. Throughout the first, 2 acts of the movie, you only got brief glimpses of him, which really upset me. There were 2 scenes where it looked like Godzilla was about to fight with, Muto, who was like the other monster of the movie. We'll talk about Muto in a minute. There were 2 scenes where it looked like you were about to get a really fucking cool fight scene between Godzilla and Muto, but they cut it off right before they cut to blows, and through various like TV news reports, you could see like little glimpses of the fight, but it just felt like a gigantic kaiju cock tease, which really upset me. I got, like, visibly angry at those parts. The final cutscene definitely makes up for that. We'll get to that in a minute. Next thing to talk about, the monster that Godzilla was fighting, or monsters, rather, which were known as Mutos. There was a male version who was smaller but could fly, and a female version who was absolutely humongous. I really liked the design of these monsters. They kind of looked a little bit like the Cloverfield monster. I can at least see comparisons. They were both extremely original designs. The monsters sounded awesome, which is good because a kaiju's roar is one of the most memorable bits of the kaiju. It's something that I honestly feel like Pacific Rim really dropped the ball on. Another movie I recently saw. I might do a review of that if there's a request for it. But my big issue with the Mutos was that they didn't really have their own power move. Like, Godzilla has the atomic breath, King Ghidorah had the tri-atomic breath, Mothra had the sleeping powder stuff, Anguirus had his spike ball. You know, most every Godzilla monster up until, like, every Japanese Godzilla monster had its own power attack, and I didn't really see that with the Mutos. There was a scene where the flying Muto picked up Godzilla and dropped him on top of a building, but I don't really know if that counts as a power attack. Like, they didn't have their version of the atomic breath, which I thought was kind of lame. They weren't as cool as they could have been because they didn't have that power attack, but they looked really cool and they sounded really cool. So 2 out of 3 isn't that bad, but the third one is kind of the big one. The actors that they got for the movie, I felt for the most part were really good. The main actor, I can't remember, I think his name was Ford, the main actor. The protagonist of the story. Ford put on a phenomenal performance. Ford's wife did really good, Ford's father did really good, all of the generals and military people and the main scientist of the movie, they all put on really good performances. The one issue I had was Ford's son. I mean, this is an issue with most child actors, but there really wasn't a whole lot of emotion behind his performances, which, you know, you can kind of understand. It's a kid. They really don't know how to act most of the time, especially if it's their first major motion picture. I felt like the lack of any emotional response from the child kind of took away from a few scenes that should have been a lot heavier in emotion. All in all, everyone put on a really good performance with one or two exceptions. The plot itself, I thought was really cool. Basically, it was a giant military drama over how to deal with the kaiju issue, and while I wish that they would have spent more time on the monsters themselves, I enjoyed the plot. There weren't any points where I felt like the movie was dragging on. It could have been a little shorter, but there weren't any points where I was sitting there thinking, oh my fucking god, just get on with it. I felt that it was really well paced. The cinematography and the visual effects were absolutely fantastic. There were even a few chuckle scenes, a few scenes that were kind of funny, so I had a few jabs of comedy without it going over the top like other Godzilla movies that I've seen. Again, I'm looking at you, Godzilla 1998, you fucking piece of shit. But the final battle, which I feel is the last 20 minutes, hands down the best part of the movie, as you can probably expect. On the human side, you had a small battalion of soldiers trying to disarm a bomb, an atomic bomb. Huge spoiler alert to anyone who's watching this. I warned you. But no, you had a battalion of soldiers who were trying to disarm an atomic bomb while the city is pretty much completely empty, and you had Godzilla fighting both of the Mutos, the male and female. I feel like the battle was good, but on a Godzilla standard, I feel like it could have been way better. And again, a huge chunk of that was that the Mutos didn't really have any power moves. They were just standard, really big kaiju. That kind of took away from it. There weren't any scenes where I thought that Godzilla would be defeated. I mean, obviously Godzilla was going to win, but I suspend my disbelief quite a bit when I go to see movies like this. There weren't any scenes where I felt like Godzilla was going to be defeated, even during the point where they kind of teased that Godzilla was defeated. I was just sitting there like, no, they didn't do that. They didn't do that much damage, and a huge chunk of that is the fact that I'm a colossal Godzilla fan. This is far from my first Godzilla movie. I've seen most of, if not all of them, but I digress. But the final fight scene, while I feel like there could have been a little bit more drama to it, there could have been a little more action to it as far as the enemies go, it was a really good fight scene. All in all, final thoughts. I wish that they would have done a few more things with the monsters, Mutas. I really wish that they would have gotten a child actor who can portray a little more emotion, but again, child actor, what are you gonna do? All in all, this was a huge, massive improvement over the 1998 American Godzilla movie. I can't think of an exact number, but it definitely goes on my top 10 favorite Godzilla movies overall. I felt that the story was really good, I felt that the human characters were really good, and they got Godzilla right by the grace of the kaiju god himself, who I guess would be Godzilla. They got Godzilla right, which I am so happy about. I'm so happy to see that America finally has a good Godzilla movie. We can put Godzilla 1998 behind us, and I'm really hoping that they make a franchise out of this, where we get to see some more familiar faces. I'm hoping that we get a American Godzilla movie in the future that has Mothra and Anguirus and King Ghidorah and Destroya. God, I hope that they make one with Destroya. I love him. If I had to give it a rating on a grading scale, I would have to give it a B+. Again, major points taken away from the enemy kaiju being way less threatening than they could have been, but the plot was great, Godzilla was great, solid B+. So that about does it for this movie review. I hope that for those of you who are on the fence and didn't mind the spoilers, it was insightful. I hope that for those of you who watched the movie, I hope it was entertaining. Down there in the comments section, if you've seen the movie, let me know what you think of it. I want to know what you guys thought of the Godzilla movie. I'm going to say this now, I don't want this to turn into a flame war. If you didn't like the movie, that's perfectly fine. Let's discuss it civilly in the comment section down below. Basically, Theory Addict rules apply, just don't be a dick. But yeah, that about does it for this review though. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. TheBrandonBrownson, signing out.